We're stewards of a message that's been handed to us. And one of the reasons we hammer the gospel in Founders Ministries, we do it in our pastoral ministry at Grace Baptist Church here in Cape Coral, is because we're always in danger of neglecting the gospel, assuming the gospel, losing the gospel. And so we don't have any rights whatsoever to rub off the hard edges of the gospel or to somehow dress it up to try to make it more palatable. Now, we ought to be seeker-friendly in our own lives. We ought to do everything we can to remove offense personally in the way we relate to people, how we treat people, how we engage with people. But the gospel, we have no business whatsoever withholding any of the offense of the gospel. And so what is the gospel? We hammer this all the time in our church, and the way I say it in kind of a shorthand fashion so that anybody can get it is the gospel is a message about Jesus Christ, who he is, what he's done, why that matters. And so you look at the person of Christ. Well, he's the eternal Son of God who became a man, lived a life of perfect obedience to God's commandments. What did he do? Well, he did that life of obedience to God's commandments, and then he died on the cross under the wrath of God for sin and was raised from the dead, ascended into heaven, where he rules and reigns now at the right hand of God the Father, and he will come on an appointed day. All of those things of who he is, what he's done, are inherent in the gospel. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because we're sinners. We're rebels against God. We come into this world because of sin as hating God. All of those things are somewhat offensive. They're not niceties, but they're realities that are taught in Scripture. They have Bible verses behind them, and if we're stewards of this message, we've got to be willing to say the message and not to pull punches and not to think, oh no, if I say that, then they're going to think maybe Jesus doesn't get them. It's not that. We don't have that option. We have one gospel, and that gospel has been defined in the Scriptures, and we're stewards to proclaim it. We ought to do it as lovingly, as kindly, humbly as we possibly can, but we know that the message itself is offensive.